Hello.
Hello.
Welcome back to American Guy, Chinese Girl. Okay, today we have a very interesting topic to talk about. That is Noah's experience of living in his van on and off about 3 years in LA. And I just thought that was really interesting, and today we are going to talk to him about that. So the first question is, can you give people a quick background about why you started living in your car in LA?
Yeah, so at the time that I made the decision to do that, I was living in the Outer Banks of North Carolina. I was teaching kite surfing out there. That's the time that I met Shuang, and I got my first ever music gigs out there, where I actually got paid to play music. And that was also shortly after I had worked a 9-to-5 job for the Tennessee Lottery, where I was at a desk in one of these cubicles and watching people every morning coming to work, trying to make it from their car to the office, and then after work trying to make it back from the office to their car. And I saw all these people having like mobility problems, and I just thought, I don't want to do that for the next 30 years, because that's what I'm going to end up looking like, and that's what I'm going to end up struggling with. And so I had this opportunity to go teach kite surfing in the Caribbean and Turks and Caicos, where I would actually make the best money that I had made in my life at that point. But I thought I wanted to chase my dream of being an artist, and I thought that just was a more authentic way to be myself, and the only way that I could actually do that would be to live in my car. And the other thing that I didn't mention was LA was where I was born. I was born in Glendale, which is pretty close to Pasadena. It's all part of the LA area. And so I thought, in being an artist, the best way that I could be an artist, I could probably play music in Turks and Caicos as well, but it would be a deeper commitment to myself as an artist to go rediscover the place of my birth and really throw myself in head over heels into life as an artist in what is known as a creative town, as an artist town. And so that's what I did. And I lived in my car and started in Long Beach.
Nice. And the second question is, how do you like this car living experience overall? Also, what do you like about it? What don't you like about it?
I loved living in my car. I mean, it had its ups and downs for sure, but the main thing that is great about it, and I highly recommend it to anybody that is willing to give it a try.
Not me. I pee too much.
Okay.
Yeah.
It buys you freedom, because when you live in your car, you drastically lower your overhead. Your expenses are about as low as you can possibly get them, and so you don't have anywhere close to as much of a need to make money. And now this just frees up your time, and it frees up your location too, because you can live anywhere. I mean, you can. If I'm living in LA and I've got kind of a place where I'm mostly residing, if I decide I want to go check out this other place for a while, you have no ties. And
right.
You, especially with what I was doing with music, you can find music gigs in any town. And so as long as you can find just a few, you can cover your basic needs, and it just buys you total freedom. And so that's a wonderful, wonderful upside, and that's really the main and only significant upside. The downsides would be that you lose a lot of the conveniences. It's harder to get a shower. It's it's less safe. You have to look for a place to go to sleep every night, and if you don't have a good idea of where that's going to be, it's just a little more difficult. It's not something you have to worry about if you got a place of residence. Also, you don't really have a place that you can just go to if you need to relax for a little bit. If you're out going different places, your car may be really hot, if it's in the sun. And so weather is going to be a much more significant impact on you. The heat, you feel the changes in temperature a lot more. There are many nights where I would be sweating significantly when I was sleeping, or I would be freezing.
Even in LA?
Not in LA so much, which is why you want to pick a good spot. In LA, yeah. I tended to at the time that I was living there, I was in Long Beach, and there was a nice stretch of parking that was by the ocean. So I had oceanfront living. You can't beat it. Oceanfront living for free, and you get a little bit of the ocean breeze. The air temperature stays cool, and for those of you that are familiar with the LA weather, it's very moderate. So in the winter or the summer, it's a comfortable temperature. So it wasn't a big deal. But there were other times where I was driving around the country, doing a tour, and some of the nights were very, very, very cold.
Yeah. And the third question is, any tips in general for living in your car or your van? I think maybe you should tell people how many cars in total you lived in.
Yeah, I lived in 3 different cars total. So the first car that I started out the whole journey in was a Honda CR-V.
Yeah.
It was very small. I had all my stuff in there. I had my kite surfing equipment in there. I had a guitar in there. I had a djembe drum in there.
Yeah.
And so, the first times that I was sleeping there, I was just sleeping on a pile of stuff in the trunk. And or in the back trunk area, and anybody could just look in the car and see that I was sleeping there, and it was very uncomfortable, and I slept there for months.
Yeah.
And I got kind of used to it, and it was fine. And then I also lived in 2 different vans. I lived in sort of a conversion van for a while that was fine, and then the best one for me was the Ford E350. I got sort of a work van. That I put a futon in and built like a desk. It was nothing extravagant at all. It was kind of silly. I just put carpets in there and.
Yeah, we'll insert a picture.
Some people have beautiful conversion vans. Mine was not at all.
Okay.
But as far as tips, I would say safety is a huge concern. And when I was sleeping in the Honda CR-V, I actually went through an experience where I was trying to go to sleep in a place that I thought was relatively safe, where I'd slept many times, and I overheard outside, almost a parking space away from my car, some guy talking to his girlfriend saying he wanted to kill somebody that night, and he wanted it to be a Long Beach police officer. And so this is not something that you tend to have to deal with if you live in a private residence in a reasonable area. You're not going to be dealing with that stuff. And so it's a tip that I would give is probably become familiar with areas where you are going to be parking.
Especially at night, right?
Especially at night.
Not so much.
But that is a risk because you're kind of vulnerable in your car. And so one tip would be, one of the reasons that the E350 is way better, you can create kind of covert vans. They call it, there's a name for them, but the E350 doesn't have any windows in the van, and so nobody can tell if somebody's in there. You can do things that make it clear. If you've got a vent fan in the roof, then people will be pretty confident that there's somebody in there. But it's nice if you can be sleeping somewhere and you don't alert potential people that would want to do you harm or rob you that there's actually somebody in the van. It also helps protect you from police coming and telling you, hey, you need to move, you can't be here. So that's a tip. Another, I don't know. You want to move on to the next question?
No, how about finding parking? Do you have tips on how to find 24-hour parking, especially at night, for people to sleep?
Yeah, I think in general, what I would look for is I would go to the areas of town that I think are relatively safe or desirable areas to be.
Yeah.
And then just spend time looking for parking, because you can almost always find somewhere where you're not going to become bothered. You're not going to be bothered.
Usually grocery stores, like a Walmart.
Well, Walmarts are known to be good places to park overnight.
Yeah.
It might be kind of tough to park there every night for weeks or months.
So you got switch Walmart.
Yeah, but there usually are going to be some spots where it's just not super busy, or like where I parked in Long Beach was this beachfront parking.
Yeah.
And there were always cars parked there, and me being there didn't disrupt anybody. It was no problem for anybody. So it was safe. There were eyeballs around, so I was safe, and it was not a problem for anybody. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next question is, when you were living in your car, how do you keep yourself healthy and clean and presentable for any jobs you are going to do in the daytime.
Yeah, so this would be one of the tips even, which would be get a gym membership. I got a gym membership with a place called Anytime Fitness, and it was perfect. So that's honestly one of the best tips I could give is it was $40 a month, and that's basically your rent is $40 a month, and then car insurance and gas or whatever, which you were going to pay anyway if you were paying rent somewhere else. But for $40 a month, you have a shower and a gym that you can access at any time. And they have them all over the country, even in places that are more obscure. You can find Anytime Fitnesses. So if you wanted to travel around, you now have for $40 a month showers and sinks where you can brush your teeth and all that at any time all over the country and even the world. The Anytime Fitnesses are actually all around the world. So that part of things is actually really easy. Another option would be if you're near a beach. A lot of times they have public showers and public bathrooms that are there at the beach, or just jump in the ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about keep yourself healthy? Clearly you can't cook in your van, so how do you keep yourself healthy?
I think healthy is pretty easy because you have your free time. So it's very easy for you to find time to exercise. And by the way, if every time you have to take a shower or brush your teeth, you're also going into a gym, that's going to help keep you healthy is the exercise. But in terms of eating, a lot of the stuff that I would eat is just go to a grocery store and buy an apple or a banana or a sandwich. And so I can't cook, but there's still lots of foods that you can buy that are relatively healthy. You can also set yourself up with a simple cooking stove that you can put in your van, that you can heat with propane, or there are solutions. If you want to cook in your van, you can.
Yeah, if you want hot food.
But I didn't.
Okay. So next question is, would you do it again in the future? Why?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it doesn't really fit a family lifestyle. So I think, one of the biggest things that I feel like I'm responsible for in being the head of a family is to protect a family. And I don't think that being in your car is an ideal situation for trying to protect your family. And I think that there are a lot of conveniences and sort of basic needs that aren't going to be met if you're living in a car and trying to take care of your family. But that said, if I was single and I was making a decision about what I wanted to do with my life, I would not be opposed at all to living in my car again, because it brings you so much freedom, and I would be able to have, at the drop of a hat, any adventure that I want to go on is available to me. So I wouldn't hesitate at all to live in the car again. I think it can be very comfortable. It's exciting. It's fun. I don't think the downsides are that significant at all. So for me, yeah.
Okay. Last question is, how do you feel like this experience, living in your car, transformed your life? Basically, what you learned most from it?
I think that living in my car, the way that it transformed my life, there's probably multiple ways, and I think mostly good and maybe some bad. And so one of the most significant ways that it transformed my life is that I knew and I know that no matter what happens, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of losing my house. I'm not afraid of becoming in a difficult financial situation, because I know that no matter what happens, I'm always going to be able to make ends meet for a living situation that works for me. I don't have a problem with living in my car, and maybe some other people do, and maybe that would impact my friendships, right? Like there are some people that won't want to be friends with me because I live in my car, and they think that makes me a lesser person. But I don't really care. I don't think I would want to be friends with those people if they're going to judge me for that. So it actually kind of helps me out. So I'm not worried. I know that the worst case scenario for me, short of if I had some kind of significant health problem, like I was losing limbs, or the worst case scenario for me is actually still a great scenario. So I feel like it just opened my mind to possibilities of life, and reduced my worries, and I feel like you can have a very enjoyable life. There's many ways to do it, and so For the negative side of things, the way that it impacted me, I think it did put me in a greater state of need. Like, I feel like I was around more homeless people.
Yeah.
And at the time, now it might be different for me, but at the time I did have a lot of self-doubt, and I felt like I wasn't going to make it in the corporate world, and I kind of doubted my worth as it compared to maybe other people, and I doubted my self-worth to some degree because I was living in my car, and I felt that way about my own self, and so that did impact my relationships. And I think that created a dynamic within my relationships where I just was disconnected from sort of mainstream society. It changed me, and it made me different. And that was difficult for me for a stretch because I felt like maybe I was cheating. I was cheating a little bit because other people were having to work hard to maintain their situations. And I was going kite surfing and playing a music gig here and there, and living on Easy Street. And then I also think, like, maybe another way to, this isn't exactly a perfect comparison, but they talk about, like, if you go to prison, for example, that inmates can be more possessive about their food. They will kind of eat with hunched over. They grab their food. And they can be a little more, possessive. And I think that maybe this kind of impacts you a little bit in that way too, because you just feel like needier. You can feel in a state of need and less overall security because you're not plugged into a corporate work environment, or you're not plugged into, communities as much. And so it's just different. It can be isolating, and it can change you in that way too.
Yeah, it's good and bad.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it for today's video, and hope you guys enjoyed it. We will be back for another interesting topic very soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.